esotericist, an artist is someone who responds to the vibration of some aspect of reality to which he attunes himself and then gives that expression. And without expression, there would be no art. Art, of course, all painting is a convention. There is no way the painter can deal with flesh and blood, sinew and bones. He's dealing with forms and colors, usually on a flat surface, and creating an artificial thing, an illusion, either a sign or a symbol. Every art is the result of a sign. When a child makes an oval shape and puts two eyes and a stroke for a nose and another stroke for a mouth, it has created a sign which stands for head. We all recognize it. There are archetypal, universal symbols which, as soon as we see them, we recognize as man, head, dog, horse, or whatever. However unlike in naturalistic terms the sign may be to the original form. We take this for granted. We read into these signs that which we know they stand for. Even the most naturalistic image, photographic type image, when it is placed on a flat surface in form and color, is itself a convention and a sign of some kind. It stands for a head, a woman, a dog, a plate of apples, or whatever. Signs can go further than being simply signs standing for. They can be signs which become, if conveying meaning, symbols. And as a painter, I feel my own painting has moved from the sign to the symbol. These symbols, of course, can be at different levels. The greater the art, the more profound the symbol will be, the more expressive it will be of the meaning which it symbolizes. The great art of the past, of the Leonardos and the Raphaels, of the Rembrandts, the Michelangelos and so on, have their resonance in our lives today because of the nature of the artist who created them. Because from his profound response to the world of meaning, drew from these symbols which, from their knowledge of their craft, they were then able to describe, express in pictorial terms. The symbol then is something which conveys meaning over and above that of the sign. While remaining a sign, it is a way into that aspect of reality which we call beauty or God. And the great artist is someone who can show us something of the nature of that mysterious essence of reality known as beauty, and something of the nature of that which we call God. Ideally, of course, every painter wishes his paintings to speak for themselves. Really, I think very few painters like to talk about the paintings, and in very many cases they feel they are weakening the impact of their paintings by speaking about them. But symbols, if they are truly symbols, do carry meaning, and I believe something can be said to not elucidate the picture, not to explain the picture, but to give an insight into the ideas behind the image. Probably no more than that. It is really the provision of a way in for the viewer. But to know what the picture is about is not the same thing as to understand the painting. people say, I don't understand this painting. What they really mean is, I don't recognize the image. I don't recognize the sign. I don't understand or recognize the symbol. Picasso used to say, when people said, well, I don't understand what this is about, he said, do you need to understand the song of a bird? A painter paints like a bird sings. And it is as clear and direct an expression of his experience as the song of a bird is for the bird. But since people do like to have the meaning behind things illumined and conveyed to them, let me just try to talk a little bit about my paintings. Some of them I shall be able to say something about, and some of them perhaps not so much about. Many of them I know what they're about in some kind of inner, intuitive way, without being able to put that necessarily into words. In this case, the picture on the screen, which is called Chalice, I can really say something about. This is an image which represents the cosmic spiritual heart center, from whose center flows the energy we call love. And I think the greatest compliment I have ever been paid in terms of recognition of the expressive power of my paintings is when someone I know saw that painting, knew nothing about it, had never seen it before, and said, I don't know why, but that to me represents the Christ. The Christ we know is the Lord of love, embodies the energy we call love. And it would appear, at least to her, seeing the original, this of course is hardly even the beginning of reality in terms of the original, which is about 8 feet high and 6 feet wide. That to me shows that something about that picture does convey, or conveyed at least to her, the energy we call love. I saw it, of course, in a very profound state. It was implanted in my mind by my master. And as I saw it, what I saw was space, endless, infinite space of that background color. And in that space, a colossal shape like that, which was made of fire, blue and white fire, which was moving constantly, and yet at the same time held that shape. It is a hard thing to describe, and a very hard thing to do, to take a moving, flaming object which is constantly changing its form and yet retaining its form, how to convey that on a flat surface, two-dimensional form, with color and shape in such a way as to convey the image and the impact of that colossal cosmic force. And in the center is that the original is more golden colored than that shows a kind of molten golden fire from which poured out the energy we call love. And in the experience, one felt absolutely clearly and definitely the energy which is love, which is embodied on this planet by the Christ. This, of course, and I'm sure this is true for all painters, this to me is a pale image of the reality I saw in the inner state of meditation and with the inner eye. But as all painting is, it's a convention, a sign, and hopefully too a symbol of that cosmic reality. This is the same image in man. This is man's spiritual heart center. The picture itself is called lotus. As the original, the cosmic center is called the chalice. This represents the chalice of the heart in the human being. It is the spiritual heart center at the right-hand side of the chest. Many of you will know that in the Bible, there's a saying, the wise man's heart is at the right side, the foolish man's heart is at the left. That right side heart is the spiritual heart center in which, at a certain moment in man's evolution, the energy of evolution, which we call the Christ principle, the Christ consciousness, is esoterically lit. It is then fanned to a flame by the Masters and the Christ and brings the disciple to the point of initiation. It is seen here on the even-armed cross of Aquarius. In this age of Aquarius, humanity as a whole, not simply as individuals, but the mass of humanity will awaken to the Christ principle in the spiritual heart center. And in that very real sense, the Christ will manifest throughout the world through humanity. This is only possible today because of the presence in the world of the Christ himself, who embodies that energy. It flows from him to us. He embodies that energy and is therefore the Christ. And as he awakens it in the hearts of men, so as it blossoms, the new age proceeds. The cross of Aquarius will become what it is, a major symbol for the age, that even-arm cross, which will demonstrate the discipleship of the human race. Here we have number 3. It is called the flaming diamond. The flaming diamond, from the esoteric point of view, represents a great rod of initiation. There are 2 major rods of initiation. This one, the flaming diamond, which is wielded by the Lord of the world, Sanat Kumara, on Shambhala at the 3rd and higher initiations. It is charged, activated at the beginning of each world cycle by energy from the sun, electrical fire from the sun, which is held in that rod, which is an etheric matter. And there is also a lesser rod, which is wielded by the Christ, the Lord Maitreya, at the first 2 initiations. This will become a reality for the vast majority of humanity in this coming age, because instead of initiation being an experience for a few individuals here and there, as it has been over the millennia and even today, in this coming time, the Christ will go from country to country, and in the temples of the time will initiate thousands upon thousands of men and women in group formation into the hierarchy through the portals of initiation, with the energy streaming to him and through him from the rod of initiation. When people have taken the first 2, they can then come to the readiness for the 3rd initiation when they come before the Lord of the world. And that is the deep and altogether deeper meaning of the statement by the Christ that he is the way. No man can come unto the Father except through me. This, of course, has been interpreted by the Christian groups in a totally exclusive way, meaning that no man can know God unless he becomes part of the Christian tradition and accepts the dogmas and doctrines which are entirely man-made. The meaning is altogether different. It means no man can come before the Father, Sanat Kumara, the Lord of the world, at the 3rd and higher initiations, who has not before that stood before the Christ and from him received the accolade of the 1st and 2nd initiations with the great rod of power. This number 4 is called the central spiritual sun. There are 3 suns in this solar system. We see only one of them, the outer physical sun, from which is emitted a great fire by friction. There is an inner sun which emits solar fire. the energy which we call love. And within that again is another sun, the central spiritual sun, from which is emitted electrical fire. And these three fires, electrical, solar, and fire by friction, make up all that we see and know and touch and experience in our physical world. This number 5 is called Solar Angel 1. There are two versions here. This is number 1. Some of you will remember it having been used on the cover of Share International magazine. The solar angel represents our true identity. All of us are souls in incarnation. Our true nature is as individualized parts of one great angel, Deva, whose name is Lucifer. So often I am asked on programs, interviews, and radio and television about the nature of Lucifer, and the common idea is that Lucifer is Satan, the devil. Nothing could be further from the truth. Lucifer embodies the whole of humanity. Lucifer is a great angelic being, the oversoul of all the souls of humanity. And the fall of Lucifer from heaven in the Bible is a symbolic only account of the descent into incarnation some 18.5 million years ago, according to the esoteric teachings, of the human souls for the first time. The human souls, according to the plan of the Logos, descended, fell, as it were, from paradise, where they are perfect, into flesh, into the human kingdom, and the story of the human kingdom began all these millions of years ago. The story of Adam and Eve in the Bible symbolizes this descent from paradise. It was not by accident, but the result of the evolutionary plan of this evolution by the Lord of the world, reflecting the Logos of the planet. Again, it is seen as fire because that is the nature of the solar reality. We are souls. We are perfected beings, perfect expressions or emanations from the planetary Logos, whose nature is fire. This solar Logos, solar angel 2, is another later painting of the same subject, the solar angel, this time, of course, as you can see, covering more of the actual area of the canvas, so it has a different relationship to what we would call the background, the positive and the negative aspects, the foreground or image and background have a different tension, different relationship. This is something which is a purely perhaps personal interest and meaning for the artist himself. When an artist does more than one version of a subject, he is generally exploring all the possible insights, all the possible ways in which he can give expression to the same idea. There is not one single form or one single image, one single painting which can probably fully express the meaning of the symbol which he is seeking to illuminate in his painting. This number 7 is called Flame Color Deva. The Devas are angels and part of a quite separate evolution from man. There are many very different types and levels of Devas. It's an unbelievably complex evolution which is parallel to the human evolution. And it is part of the plan, the long-term plan, that eventually the evolution of humanity, man, and that of the Deva kingdom, the angelic kingdom, will come together in the divine hermaphrodite. The human kingdom providing the male, positive aspect of that reality, and the Deva, the feminine aspect to the reality. We are the sons of mind and develop through the perfection of mind. Devas or angels are the daughters of feeling and develop through the perfection of feeling. When these two things are united in the divine hermaphrodite, great part of the divine plan will be fulfilled. This is something in the far, far distant future. This painting is symbolizes one of these devas, the flame-colored devas. There are white devas, gold devas, blue devas, violet devas, green devas, and all sorts of combinations of these on different levels, different planes. This flame-colored deva is shown here in its relative color against the background of its own space of etheric matter, which is identified here in the painting by the continuance of the form of fire out into space. We are living in really a notion of etheric energy, which again is an aspect of fire. And ourselves, our human bodies, and the bodies of devas are really nothing more than accumulations, condensations of that etheric energy in a far more complex way through a series of vortices. As the lines of force crisscross and crisscross, they form vortices which provide the channels for the incoming and the outgoing of the energies which all of us demonstrate. So it is with the Deva and angelic kingdom. The time is coming in the relatively very near future when the human kingdom and the Deva kingdom will work in the closest harmony. I know many groups at the present moment claim contact with and working with the Deva kingdom, but I believe personally that is more wish fulfillment than reality. But there is no doubt at all that in the relatively near future, under the stimulus of the presence of the Christ and the hierarchy of masters, that contact with the Deva kingdom, which at the moment is rather dangerous, will take place under control and under guidance and completely safely. This number 9 is called Elemental 1 and represents one of the lower builders. The lower builders are the subhuman devas. Devas can be of every level, from the subhuman elemental up to the level of human and up to the level of a master and beyond that. Everything in the whole of cosmos is in the way of becoming human, being human, or going beyond being human. And there are therefore greater superhuman devas and subhuman devas. This is one of the subhuman elementals who are to do with the creation of the woods and the trees and the matter of the planet. They bring together the forces which create the flora and fauna of the world. This is, of course, a quite symbolic representation of such a Devic force, which is seen really as part of the environment which it is creating out of its own action. Our bodies are created out of the action of such tiny Devic lives. This, number 10, is called Elemental 2 and shows one of the elementals working on a lower level than that of the previous elemental. This is one of the rather lower of the lower builders, and is of course again a symbolic image, not probably something you would enjoy meeting on a dark night, but which nevertheless is highly intelligent, even if working completely instinctively and under the guidance of higher minds. All of the devas work under control of higher devic entities or masters. The masters use the devas, in particular the healing devas, mainly the green and violet devas, in their healing work. The first ray line use the builders in the raising and lowering of continents, in the control of the pressures and gases of the interior of the earth. And those devas which have a main task of creating the fires and working with the fires and the molten lava within the planet, work in this way and quite blindly, even if intelligently, under the aegis of extremely intelligent beings called the Lords of Materiality. These are on the involutionary arc, and they work with this kind of Devic elemental. The masters always work with those on the evolutionary arc, of which we are to be found. This picture is called polarity. It is to do with the meeting of two forces, spirit and matter, positive and negative, male and female. It is, if you like, an image, a symbol of cosmic sex. It is sex on the highest level, not on the physical plane, but of the coming together of great cosmic forces. And it is a prophecy of one of the masters, the Master Jalkul, that in the future, children will be conceived without the normal sexual contact that we know today, but by an act of thought. The concentrated thought of the male will conceive the child in the womb of the female. The child will be born in the usual way, but the method of conception will shift up from the physical plane onto the mental plane. And this represents that level and perhaps even higher levels than that. Certainly that was in my mind when I painted this. This, number 12, is called Antakarana 1. Through the process of meditation, one builds gradually from the brain up to the soul a channel of light, while at the same time the soul, far more expertly, is building downward to its representative, its reflection, the man or woman in incarnation, a similar channel. And in this way, a bridge between the two is gradually formed. It takes probably millions of years, certainly hundreds of thousands of incarnations to bring a man or woman to the point of the first initiation. But eventually, the soul, the true self, sees that its reflection, the man or woman in incarnation, has come at last to the readiness for preparation for the first initiation. And it does this by bringing its reflection, the man or woman, into meditation of some kind. In the first instance, it might be very flimsy approach indeed, very slight, but eventually there will come a life in which many hours, perhaps a whole life, will be spent in some meditational process. And in this meditation, the man or woman automatically creates, through his aspiration, the channel of light up to the soul. And the soul is all the time creating downwards to the brain this channel of light. When that channel is complete, or somewhat complete, the soul can then pour its nature, its intelligence, its love, eventually its will, all of which are spiritual. So it is the higher mind, buddhi or love wisdom, and Atma, or spiritual will, down into the vehicle, gripping the vehicle on the mental plane, on the astral, emotional planes, and on the physical plane, until the man or woman eventually is reflecting completely, in an integrated way, the nature of the soul. Then we have the totally soul-infused individual who can then take the third initiation and come before the Lord of the world on Shambhala and receive the energy from the flaming diamond which we saw earlier. This is again an image, a symbol representing that channel of light. This is number 13 is a later version of that very same image. The yellow shape at the top, of course, representing the soul, and the other, the receiving brain and personality nature, with the channel of light between the two. This number 16, we have jumped a few, is called Cosmic Fire, and represents symbolically in that cosmic egg-shaped form the fire of cosmos. We live in an electrical universe, and that electrical fire, which is blue and white and completely cold, exists, and it's as the fire behind all the fires, the fire of the inner central spiritual sun and its correspondences throughout cosmos. This is a symbol for that type of fire. This number 17 is called Vision. This is the result, really, of an inspiration from a statement by the Dutch artist Van Gogh. Van Gogh, as some of you will know, wrote some wonderful letters, and I believe had he never painted a picture, his letters alone his letters in particular to his brother, Theo, would have earned him a place in the history of man. The letters, some of the most eloquent letters I have ever read, convey his love of humanity, his deep inner searching and longing to express the Christ principle through himself, his actions, his life, and above all in his work. And of course, many of you will know that he came to painting very late. He had only 10 years to complete the whole of his painting career, and worked at an extraordinary intensity. He began to think about the art of the future, and in my reading about his writing about the art of the future, I had an image of the art of the future, and this was the vision which I saw. There we have again the fire of cosmos, the spiritual, inner spiritual fire, embodied by the egg-shaped form of cosmos, the cosmic egg, over what I take to be a kind of altar shape, as if it is presenting itself to humanity through some agency, perhaps the agency of religion, in this case, the agency of art. This picture, number 18, is called The Portal. The portal is the doorway into initiation. As the soul awakens the individual through the process of meditation, the pouring down of its spiritual life into the disciple, it brings its disciple eventually to the portal of initiation. When the Christ principle is awakened in the spiritual heart center, then the man or woman can be so prepared. This image, the dark image, the black door-shaped image, represents symbolically the portal of initiation and the two forms within it, sort of circular oval-shaped forms, one reddish, one bluish-greyish, represent the first two initiations which are taken before the Christ. This picture, number 19, is called Approach and deals with the same event. The approach is to the third initiation. The first two are safely tucked under the belt and are within the form which is representing, to me at least, a kind of uplifted, aspiring towards the third and truly very crucial soul initiation, which makes a man or woman divine for the very first time. It is called approach, approaching the third, having taken the first two under the Christ. This is called, number 20, within the gates, and represents the completion of that process. The first two initiations are taken. The third initiation is now within the gates. Within the gates, all three initiations are sealed and delivered, and the man or woman begins to demonstrate on the physical plane the truly divine life and becomes a world server. Number 21 is called Mandala 1. Now, in a sense, all of my pictures could have been called mandala. And we might have had mandala 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, up to 150 or 200 or whatever. They are all mandalas. They are all subject for meditation. And I believe at their best, at their most powerful, can really only give of their energy, of their secrets, of the embedded knowledge or meaning when contemplated, when meditated upon. And that's what you do with a mandala. This mandala is a source of meditation and can only be elucidated through the meditational process. A mandala is an image which embodies a meaning which is revealed through the process of meditation. This, number 22, is mandala 2 and embodies the meaning just to, without really explaining the meaning, let me say that it is really a symbol which is bringing together the higher and the lower. And this is a recurring symbol in my work. The higher, that embodying the spirit aspect, represented here by the violet shape at the top, the gold, the blue inverted triangle with the sun and the moon hovering over and in fact touching the square at the bottom, representing humanity and the inner aspects of humanity, with the kind of incipient triangle representing hierarchy at the very core of humanity, showing that the core of humanity is the potential to reach hierarchy and attain the awareness of the higher spiritual levels. A master is someone who has expanded the normal human perceptions and awarenesses to include the spiritual planes. This, number 23, is called Mandala 3 and represents a particular kind of mandala. This is an open or empty mandala in which the meditator, placing his attention, brings to it his inner intention and fills out the mandala. Of course, this couldn't be done simply on an empty flat canvas. This is not just an empty flat canvas, but it is a form, that golden yellow form, which in the original at least is not just a flat form, but is a kind of inner space and represents in itself, by the way it's painted, space, surrounded by these dynamic blue shapes which are in a certain relationship to each other and create the energy which activate the space. And as one contemplates it, one brings into the space the Awareness as a result of the experience of the energy from the blue shapes around the form. That sounds very complex to say, but can only actually be worked out in contemplating the picture itself. This, number 24, is called Mandala 4. We're very logical here. This again is the bringing together of the higher and the lower. Again, you have that same shape of the white form here, which was violet before, and instead of the sun and the moon, you have the sun itself, the moon underneath it, that bluey-grey shape with the yellow border, and this sitting on and touching and coming to bear on the square representing humanity within the circle in which is an incipient hierarchy. Hierarchical wisdom, not the color of wisdom, but because it's only incipient, but resting potentially within humanity, the triangle of wisdom of hierarchy, buddhi, waiting to be lit and brought to life by the downflow of the energy from the spiritual level above it. This is another mandala called Fusion, number 25, and it is the bringing together of, again, of different forces. In this case, the positive and the negative, the male and the female. As you look at that image, the central image, you see two things. You see either two forms side by side, kind of bobbin-shaped forms, or hourglass-shaped forms with a diamond shape separating them, or you see a diamond shape superimposed on an irregular form behind it. It is a question of how you read it. It is a fusion of the two. It is the two become one, with the overseeing eye of God above it, which in itself is a symbol for the sun and the moon. The sun within the moon this time bent up to enclose the sun and creating the all-seeing eye of God, standing over the triangle, which is again the incipient wisdom, the hierarchical meaning in the life of humanity. Through that, the two, the male, the female, the spirit and matter come into equilibrium and fusion through the coming down into the nature of the energy of the soul. This, number 26, is called Emerging 3. From the philosophical point of view, there is only one God, one whole substance, one being, one nature, one law in the whole of cosmos. But that one manifests itself in a myriad variety of ways. And in the first place, emerging from that one, that whole, come the three rays or streams of energy, which we call the rays of aspect. Rays 1, 2, and 3, the ray of power, the ray of love, wisdom, and the ray of adaptability or intelligence. From these three stem the four subsidiary rays and the four various attributes which make up the 7 attributes of the divine universe. The fourth ray of harmony or beauty or art, it is harmony through conflict. The fifth ray of mind, lower, concrete mind or science. The sixth ray of idealism, abstract idealism or devotion. And the seventh ray of ceremonial order or organization or magic or ritual. These are the 4 attributes stemming from the 3 primary aspects which stem themselves from the one, the source of all. That's the symbolism behind this particular painting. This, number 27, is called New World. It is the creation, or symbol, if you like, for the forming process of a new world. New worlds are the result of great cosmic forces which, in relationship, produce eventually all that we see and all that we don't see in our planet, or on any planet. The coming together of the matter of space, which is thrown off by a sun and gradually, as we say, cools, if that's the right expression, gradually precipitates downward and downwards. The energy precipitates from the etheric to eventually to the dense physical, and through the interaction of the three fires, fire electrical, fire solar fire, and fire by friction, the physical plane nature of the worlds are formed. This is an image which tries to symbolize, not exactly capture, but symbolize that process of creation. Yeah, this is number 29. It is called Ancient Moral. I'm not a moralist, but far be it from me to be moralistic to anyone, but this is an ancient moral. There is an ancient occult axiom which says that even an arhat can fall. An arhat is someone who has taken the fourth initiation and is almost a master. And if he can fall, how much more readily can the rest of us fall? This symbolizes really the white form spiraling upwards from the red circle at the bottom, spiraling upwards to the blue circle at the top, is the symbol for ascent. Ascent through the stages of growth and experience, initiation after initiation, up to the point where true awareness and enlightenment is reached, and then always there, up until perfection itself at the fifth initiation, is the possibility for a fall, which we would probably find, if we went through it, would be 1,000 times faster than the ascent. And this is an image to symbolize that slow upward spiraling movement and the tumbling down helter-skelter down to the point from which we began. It is an ancient moral and a symbol and a warning to all disciples and initiates that wherever we are, there is the possibility not of standing still, because you cannot stand still. You must go forward and upwards, or else tumble downwards. Number 30 is symbol for meditation. It is called Meditation 1. The symbols are the circular form at the bottom of the form, the overall form, represents the heart center. The striped orangey going from green to gold to orange to red in the middle represents the throat center, and the blue with the triangles and inverted triangles represents the two head centers, the one between the eyebrows and the one at the top of the head. And this particular meditational symbol represents all these three active together and coming towards gradual integration. This, number 31, is again called Meditation, Meditation 2, and represents a particular meditation in which the meditator finds himself disappearing entirely. He is left with no sense of himself as a separate individual at all. But the center at the base of the spine and the center at the top of the head are activated together and form between them a kind of, it feels like a steel rod, so powerful is the fire, but the image, the inner experience is as a kind of golden yellow oval elongated oval form like that in the middle of the picture, surrounded by a field of golden light, and then that light emanating out and out and out into infinity, so that he or she entirely disappears from the scene, but his or her consciousness continues to pervade that scene. It is an experience of becoming totally at one with the whole of the universe. The forms at the top and the bottom and at each side are simply elements in the picture to focus that experience. Ideally, the picture should be limitless in size. It should just go on and on to the sides and up to the top and bottom, because it represents infinity. But of course, there's no way you can do that in a painting. One has to draw the line somewhere, and the lines are of course drawn here by the edges of the canvas. This, number 32, symbolizes that aspect of ourselves, the fire, the Shakti, the fire of the earth coiled, Mother Nature, the fire of the female, the mother aspect, coiled at the base of the spine. By its gradual movement up through the chakras until eventually, in great power, it reaches the head center, enlightenment comes about. It is awakened occultly, or should be awakened occultly, by the Master in a very scientific way, coming stage by stage, circling upward, spiraling upward through the chakras, prepared in advance for its reception. It is not infrequent that various disciples, aspirants, ignorantly and prematurely awaken that fire by all sorts of yogic meditational methods and do themselves enormous harm when this fire, potent as it is, reaches the head center. Before the chakras are prepared for it in advance, it receives a burst of energy which can drive the person insane. And many people ruin a complete incarnation by the premature lifting up of the Kundalini fire coiled at the base of the spine. It should only be done under the supervision of a master. This number 33 is Kundalini Rising 2. There are 3 versions of this here. This represents the same fire coiled at the base of the spine and shows its spiraling movement up from the base of the spine until it meets with the fire of spirit gathered and centered at the top of the head. This number 34 is Kundalini Rising 3 and shows the same movement of energy from the base of the spine up through the various chakras to the top of the head to meet the fire of spirit. These are simply 3 versions of the same symbolic idea. This picture, number 35, is called Shakti 1 and is another version, an earlier version of the same image. The Shakti, this is another version of the same image called Shakti. The Shakti, of course, is a Sanskrit term for the Kundalini fire charged, coiled at the base of the spine. That inner image symbolizes that coiled fire. Number 37, number 38 represent the same image. They're called Cosmic Wind 1 and 2. This is Cosmic Wind 1, the first version, which throughout cosmos are great winds, Throughout our solar system are great winds. Throughout the planet are great winds. These winds have a very special role to play. In fact, there are winds traveling at enormous speeds through our solar system, which actually cool the sun. They make great paths through the sun and cool it and regulate the fires of the sun. This has to be embodied in an image, and there is no way you can just show wind and paint it. Everything the painter puts on the canvas has to have a shape, has to have a color, has to have some relationship to everything else. And this is an image which, by intuitively, if one arrives at these things by intuition, intuitively symbolizes the wind of cosmos in infinite space of cosmos, cooling down and doing its beneficent work throughout cosmos. This picture is called Time Shift. It is number 39. Time Shift is a little more difficult to see in this slide version. Seen in the original, it's very clear. It symbolizes two quite different experiences of that phenomenon we call time. Time really doesn't exist except in the physical brain. We imagine that time is a succession of events by which we measure out our life and experience. Whereas time is, for the masters, really something entirely different. It is really a succession of waves of activity followed by waves and periods of inactivity, on and on infinitely. The image here acts by looking, if you look along the edges of the forms, that you see at one moment two blue forms linked together by a kind of horizontal rod which seems to move from left to right across the picture against a red background. Look again. Look at the red now, and you see a red frame through which you're looking at a blue infinite space. That blue infinite space is the true nature of time. The blue forms moving across the picture on the red background is our purely physical brain notion, quite erroneous, of time. That's why it's called time shift. This number 40 is called ritual and symbolizes some arcane ritualistic activity, which there's no way I can put it into words, but is again very much to do with the bringing down of spiritual force represented by the blue circle and the white form underneath it. You'll find that's a recurring relationship in my paintings. That brought down by magical means onto the physical plane and by ritual manifesting on the physical plane through, in fact, the agency of the seventh ray of ceremonial order or magic or ritual. This is another mandala, number 41. It has a name, Mandala Shi. The inverted triangle, red with the gold dot in the middle of it, in the yoni-shaped form there on the blue background, represents the mother aspect and the creative force behind all evolution. We are now about to enter a time, the age of Maitreya, in which the female aspect, the mother aspect, will dominate. It is the age of Maitreya, the age of Tara, the mother, and this symbolizes that. Again, number 42 is a mandala, mandala number 7, and is again a form which reveals its meaning to intuitively to the one contemplating, meditating upon the form. In this case, it is one which brings the two aspects, the positive and negative, the male, the female, into unity. and is a mandala of unity. This, number 43, is called 5 creative elements and represents 5 distinct elements which, by their constant activity, make up the phenomenal universe. These, of course, are symbolic representations of them, and some are already settled in form, some are simply movements, some are forces acting upon forms, and some bring these to fruition. These are 5 creative elements. In the initiatory process, the meaning behind that are revealed. One of the secrets behind initiation is the intuitive, creative understanding of what is actually happening through the interrelationship of these 5 creative elements. This is one of the secrets of initiation. This, number 44, is called aspiration. I think it's pretty clear within that rose-coloured form, surrounded by the white form, like white enfolding light or arms or an image, rising up out of the earth or out of the lower aspect, is a golden ball. The golden ball represents the soul. The golden ball of fire, golden fire, can be visualized in meditation above the head of the meditator as representing the human soul. And this represents the symbolic aspiration towards the awareness of and at one-ment with the human soul. 45 is a mandala, mandala number 8. It is one of those mandalas which represent totality. Mandalas can represent anything at all, any aspect of reality. This represents the all in all in all. The all in all in all, if you like, the central sun of all being in the center there, surrounded by the moving forces, the endless moving forces represented by the positive and the negative, the reds and the green movement round it, either clockwise or anti-clockwise, depending how you read it. It is really a kind of hidden swastika, the ancient Tibetan symbol for creation. Number 46 is simply called radiant and represents, again, the radiant power of the soul within the human being. And in meditation, it is a mandala, of course, as they all are. It's a mandala demonstrating or embodying that idea of the power of the soul lighting the mind. Through meditation, one gradually brings the light of the soul into the head. And that is seen in meditation as a brilliant light radiating in all directions. This, number 47, is called incantation. And again, you see that form, this time the whitish form over the circle, rather than the other way around, and is to do with the manifestation of spirit through the incantatory, invocative, magic process, the forms below being part of the ritual, which the incantatory ritual, which brings, like a mantra, brings into manifestation that which we desire to create. Everything that we see in the phenomenal universe is the result of a mantra, an incantation uttered, not that we could hear it, by some great being, some great heavenly man, the logos of the planet, or the logos of the solar system. Everything comes into being through that incantatory process. In the beginning was the Word. The Word is the great mantra which brings everything into manifestation. This, number 48, is called oracle. The ancient Greeks went to the oracles who could tell them what the future was to be. This is again a mandala which, in a symbolic way, represents the future. It represents time and timelessness, a time in which the oracle, the knowers of the world, will give to the world the meaning of life and the meaning and purpose of the future, and awaken the knowledge of the future in man, so that he is living not only now, certainly not in the past, but now and in the future simultaneously. It is really an image of the future. Number 49 is called alignment, and represents the alignment between two great centers. The center we call Shambhala, the chief head center of the planet, where the will of God is known, where the purpose of God is known, from which issues the plan of God. Therein dwells Sanat Kumara, the Lord of the world, the Ancient of Days of the Bible, and his council, included in which is the Buddha. Then below it, and in relationship to it, is that yellow triangle representing hierarchy, surrounded by a blue aura. Hierarchy is the center where the love of God manifests. And just as we aim at, aspire towards hierarchy, so hierarchy itself aspires towards Shambhala. And eventually a correct alignment between Shambhala, hierarchy, and humanity will be formed, and the plan of God will work out in the everyday world through the agency of man. This is about to begin to take place through the presence of the Christ and the Masters in the world. This is another version of the mandala you saw earlier. This is mandala 6. Is an open mandala. There, the yellow rectangular shape forms the empty space, although lit with that color, into which you can place your meditation and your meaning, which is activated by the forms around it. In this case, a more varied form and different colors and different relationships. They set off a vibration in the space of the picture, which then allows you to, by contemplation, feel out that mandala in a certain way. This, too, is a mandala 7, heaven, sun, moon, and earth. The earth is represented twice there. It is, well, 3 times really. It is represented really by the circle at the bottom, the greyish-white circle. It is represented under the moon shape there, the crescent moon, as a kind of yellowish ochre circle. The sun, of course, by the red circle above the sun, above the moon. And the blue shape on the left represents the heavens. It's a symbol for the heavens, all in a kind of cosmic egg, which represents on the one hand Earth, on the other hand the whole of cosmos. It is a fusion of elements making a mandala which represents a cosmic process of heaven and earth. This, number 52, is called Into a New Dawn, and represents or symbolizes the movement into the new age of Aquarius. We are entering literally a new dawn, in which a new light, a new voyage is set before humanity. This image is a very stylized image of a ship which is leaving port, and with the sun and the moon both lighting the sky, venturing out into the unknown, into the new dawn which awaits humanity in this coming age of Aquarius. It is an image of adventure and enlightenment. This, number 53, is called Beacon 1, and it's pretty clear. On the top of a symbol of a mountain is a great, huge beacon triangle of light surrounded by its aura, spreading out and out into the world. That is the light of truth, the light of spirit, the light, the diamond, the Christ, the call of the Christ, the presence of the Christ, the call to awakening humanity, the beacon of light which draws humanity forward into the gradual perfectionment. This, number 55, is called Radiant Diamond 1. You will find several versions of this. This is the radiant diamond again, the diamond representing, in this case, a kind of somewhere between a radiant beacon of light and a cross, and something which, in a sense, can be brought right down and placed on your table, as the symbol of the cross can be placed on your table. The cross can be placed on your table or on a wall, but of course it represents a great cosmic truth, the coming down into incarnation and the crucifixion of man on the cross of matter. This represents the road back, the divine light, bringing man back again to the spirit from which he came. This is Radiant Diamond 2, another version of the same, in which the radiance is moving out from the central image, and again giving the possibility of a cross, a shape which could be stand on a table or hang on a wall, but which is not the cross of old, the cross of crucifixion on matter, but the radiant return out of matter to spirit. Number 57 is the same image, Radiant Diamond 3, in which the movement outwards of the diamond cross, which is somehow half cross, half beacon, half radiant light, has moved out and out and out, upwards and outwards, until it has reached the very edges, in this case of the canvas, but symbolically the edges of space itself. This, number 58, is simply called Temple. It is the symbol for the temple of truth, the inner state of being. A temple is really an outer symbol for an inner state, with the cosmic symbol of the sun and the moon over the door of the temple. This, number 59, is called Temple Gate. It is the image of the temple showing only the gate, the entry into the temple, into that light of truth. Coming behind the symbolic colours of red and yellow and violet, coming from behind there is the light emanating from there. The intention is to convey through there that as you enter through the gates of the temple, you enter into a new light, a new day, a new state of consciousness. This, number 60, is simply called Mandala 9, and is again a mandala of unity, of bringing together of the above and the below, and the awakening of the heart center. The form in the middle there represents the heart center, and the beginning of realization and eventually of initiation, which results when the heart center is awakened. This, number 61, is called Synthesis, and as so often in my painting, is an attempt to symbolize the coming together of the higher and the lower, and the synthesis of the three in this case, through the downflow of the spiritual lit golden diamond through the agency of the love aspect represented by the circle in the middle, the lower nature represented by the horizontal bar of red at the bottom, are brought together in one, hopefully, eloquent image set against that descending blue. You'll see the form is wider at the top than the bottom and has a capacity to give you the sense of the light the blue of cosmos, spirituality descending downwards from heaven, as it were, and then the form within that moving upwards from the shape, the red bar at the bottom, through the circle, up to the golden diamond of realization and accomplishment and achievement at the top. That is synthesis. 62 is called suspended. The image, I think, speaks for itself. It is symbolic form, suspended, in moving, in caught up in a kind of suspended motion and held there, preparatory to a new life. This was actually an image created out of the experience of the death of someone I knew very well, and represents the movement from one life to the other and the point of suspension between the two. This is called, number 63, is called invocation, and represents simply what it says, the invoking of the energy, this time from the sun and the moon, symbolized by the two circles, one within the other at the top, and the kind of aspiring upwards to that light and knowledge from the spiritual levels. This is called harmony, number 64, and is again an attempt to demonstrate that synthesis and harmony, which is the result of the bringing together of normally disparate elements, the higher and the lower. The flame-colored diamond at the top, surrounded by the blue luminous edge, coming together to the green shape at the bottom with its blue luminous edge and the bar at the bottom. This is the higher and the lower brought into complete, total equilibrium. The synthesis again of the two, creating harmony out of conflict. Number 65 is called simply ancient rite, and symbolically represents an altar and an ancient rite which is going on at that altar. These two forms on each side representing the forces of who are taking part in the rite, those carrying out the rite, and the bringing in of the, symbolized by the triangular shape and the circle at the top, the white shapes of the spirit into the rite, and the alteration, therefore, of the nature of the sacrifice which is being sacrificed on the altar. This number 66 is called ritual mask, and represents, symbolizes, as the title suggests, a ritual mask worn by the priest when performing such a rite. This number 67 is called simply solar, and represents the solar system with its suns and moons and stars and the planets around it, and the various forces which make up a solar system. Here we have number 68, another mandala, mandala 10, and here you have again, as it were, a sacrificial table in a cosmic egg with the sun and the moon symbolized at the top, and inherent in that is the idea of sacrifice leading to the awareness of the meaning of cosmos. Nothing can be gained of the higher spiritual life without sacrifice, without the renunciation of the lower for the higher. This number 68 is called, 69 rather, is called he, she, and symbolizes the division of that unity, Father, Mother, God, into It's two parts, spirit and matter, the white representing the spirit and the red representing the matter, and the various forms and colours around it, some circular, some half circular, representing different aspects of that, the sun and the moon, the male and the female, and their constant interaction throughout cosmos. This is another version of the one we saw earlier called Emerging 3. It is called simply Emerging. Out of the one emerges the one. Out of that one emerges the 3. Out of the 3 emerges eventually the other 4, making the 7 in all. Number 71 is called Upwards, and is a symbolic statement about that aspiration upward, aspiration towards the achievement. The completed triangle at the top represents achievement. The knower, the spiritual nature standing like on a pinnacle of achievement when the person really knows who he is and what he is and where he is going. It might have been called well, it is called Upwards. The next one is actually called Achievement. 72 represents that achievement. The diamond, the flaming diamond there, represents initiation and the achievement of the task. The task which the human soul sets itself when it first brings itself into incarnation and brings its reflection, the man or woman, back over countless millennia and incarnational experiences to the manifestation of its true nature. When he sits on the throne of achievement. Now, number 73 is another version. Number 2, called the portal, again represents the portal of initiation, this time the first initiation, with the circle representing the achievement of that experience. The next, number 74, is called In Space and represents the movement of objects in space and the interrelationship between all of these. Number 75 is called Creative Process and represents the beginning of creative process from the 3 fires represented by the 3 small circles, and then the outflow from that of all the creative processes, waves of creation which stem out throughout a solar system or throughout a galaxy. This, number 76, is called Red at the Top. It is a mandala. Number 77, another mandala, is called Above, Below. Above the spiritual world, below our world. This one, 78, is simply called Flight. It is the flight of imagination, the flight of spirit through cosmos, however you care to read it. 79 is called Process. It is the process of creation and the changing effects, the changing forms that that creation takes. It is, if you like, again another version of the 5 creative elements. This one, number 80, is simply called Descent. Again, it is the descent of spirit into matter, spirit represented by the white and matter by the red, and its descent from the undifferentiated state down and down into the green of the manifested universe. And the form at the right, as your eye is caught up from the green, takes your eye back up again, and the whole process begins once again. So it's a representation, totally symbolically, of course, of that continuous process of involution and evolution, over and over, infinitely. This one, we seem to have missed one, 82, is called Resolution, and is really the resolution of 2 opposing forces. They are each working in different directions, but somehow in a kind of just held equilibrium. They are held there in a new form which is brought out of the interaction of both of them. This one, number 83, is called Rock Flower, and is to do with the metamorphosis that constantly occurs in nature. Every kingdom grows out of the kingdom below it. From the mineral kingdom, the kingdom of rocks, grows the vegetable kingdom, the kingdom of vegetables and flowers. Out of that grows the animal kingdom. Out of the animal kingdom has grown the human kingdom. And out of the human kingdom has grown and is growing the spiritual kingdom. This symbolizes that process that even out of a rock, out of a mineral, eventually, through radiance, comes a flower. 84 is simply called search. It is two things. It is the search of the spirit in cosmos for its identity in matter, and it is the search of the tiny sperm looking for the egg in which it can fertilize and become a new being. This one, quite simply, is called blessings. I think it speaks for itself. This one is called bridge, the bridge between one state of being and another, one state of consciousness and another, one material universe and another. This is called Recorded Journey, and it's a purely personal work, and it is a kind of technical journey, or a journey of, or a stylistic journey, to be more exact, a stylistic journey of my own painting. You wouldn't know, but I can recognize in that painting a whole series of phases covering very, very many years, from symbolic but romantic view of life to what I think today is not romantic, but a genuinely spiritual view of reality and the ability to record that. That is the recorded journey of my painting.